Today we're doing a little setup video for your brand new Addi power adapter. It comes shipped with this belt off, and that's for a purpose I'll be showing later. Right now you're free to be able to spin this as long as this belt is off. I'll talk about that in a minute. Right now we'll set this up on the table. We have a hole in our table, so we're looking for alignment. We've got the Addi. This crank is down, this crank is up, and you're able to dock it into place. So I'm looking for good alignment over the hole, and these just slightly hanging over the edge. And you use your original Addi clamps to clamp it to your table. Now, all we're doing is clamping the power adapter on. This doesn't have to get clamped. Okay, with that secure, next and most importantly is a little discussion on this belt and tensioning. So in the past we have been telling you to loosen this nut, which is the main tensioner for both belts. But now we found it much better to just leave everything just the way it is. And hopefully in shipping, this still lines up with the pencil mark. If it doesn't, if it came loose, then go ahead and slide that to the pencil mark. And I'll show you how to do that. There's a finish on that, so you got to kind of rock it to get it free. You want to get it to the pencil mark, tighten it down, tight. Now this is properly tensioned. And so right now we're free to hand crank because this red belt is off. This is your long belt, the motor belt. So here's how you hand crank for casting on, casting off. Once you've cast on and you're ready to start power knitting, this finger goes here on this pulley, and this belt goes up here. And you just turn it till it clicks into the groove, and now you're ready to power it. You can always turn this wheel safely. But now with this belt on, you can't turn this or you will break a belt. If it doesn't break now, it'll break later just because it was weakened. So just remember, that's why we're doing it this way, so that when you're done for the day and you're casting off anyway, so this belt is off, just leave it off. Leave it off like that, so in case somebody comes around and starts cranking, everything's going to be safe if a little kid starts cranking your machine. So keep that in mind. This is only going to go on when you're ready to power up. And again, putting your finger here, this up here. It's very easy to put on.
No, I find when I'm sitting here casting on, casting off, I can't reach all the way over there, so I will just line it up and I can align it and snap it on there. And if you stand up, you'll be able to do it.
You'll get your own technique, but it's important that I had someone talk about trying to put the belt on this pulley. That shouldn't be done because that's a small pulley, a very tight radius. You want to have the belt on there first, and you'll want to put it on the big pulley. The big radius isn't going to hurt the belt. So anyway, now we're ready to go. Next I'll show you the foot switch. It's just a conventional sewing machine foot switch. We're only going to be using it as an on-off, even though it does have a resistance speed control inside of it because it's a conventional sewing machine foot switch. But we're only going to be using it totally down, totally up for off. I'll just leave this here for the moment. So the socket has a little groove in it. It's going to go to the right. Put your finger behind this aluminum plate to support it and just push this into place. And this is your speed control. This is a very heavy-duty speed control. We don't have to worry about overpowering. It's good for 15 amps. We're only working with 1 amp, so you've got plenty of reserve. Now it's got 3 positions. You have variable, off, and full. We're never going to use the full because that's going to give you full voltage and it's going to go way too fast. So we're using off. When you're done for the day, put it in the off position. When you want to start, put it in variable. And you can turn this down into the black just so it's not, so you know about where your speed is, because everyone's voltage is different. And I have this set up for being about in the middle of the green for our voltage, but your voltage can vary up to plus or minus 5% anywhere in the US. Okay, so this has its own power cord. I put a ground adapter on because I'm using an extension cord that doesn't have a 3-prong. So there's the wide one. Put that in there like that. Now the speed control, this takes the plug coming off of the sewing machine pedal cord. And these are purposely bent in because the China plugs are not exactly like US. They try, but they're a little different. So we have to purposely bend them together so we get a little extra friction in there. So now we're ready to actually power up. We've got this belt on, got this in low, that's on variable. I'll just demonstrate with the foot switch that we're ready to go. Okay, it's hardly going, so I'm going to kick up the speed. You don't want to be in a stalled position for long. Okay, that's running very slow, very deliberate for maybe a yarn that might be giving you some grief. It wouldn't hurt to run it slow, but I always recommend a speed that kind of matches what you're used to for actually cranking. So you can see my hand is keeping up with it pretty well. That would be a good speed. It has the potential to go faster, but we don't recommend it because we're thinking the manufacturer has designed this for a RPM that's going to be appropriate for hand cranking. So this is just on, off. You could go speed, but I don't recommend that because this is a resistance type and it's very wasteful. This is a electronic type and it's very efficient at changing voltage without losing power. So all that said, you'd be ready to go with your first project. Thing again to stress is, let's say we're all done with the knitting, we're about to cast off. Again, you want to take your hand, just get this started just like this. I'm showing you very slowly and deliberately, but it can be done in a quick moment. This finger here, or however Debbie does it, where she just puts that there, and she's very good at it. So, but anyway, it's a very quick way to do it, and that way you're not messing around with tensions. Because a word about tensions, these are 2 different belts. They're going to have 2 different stretch rates. So down the road, there's potential for having to adjust those tensions. The way to go about that, this is our frame nut. This takes care of tensioning both belts at the same time. So in order to get this tension properly set, this is the first one you'd want to set if somehow these got thrown off or you're starting from scratch. You'll want to set this belt first with this frame nut. This would be in a backed off position. I'll just show you that. So we're backing off the tension. like that. And then we're looking at getting this. Again, I'm just going to go to the pencil line because I've already determined that's a proper tension. So this is tensioned. The next step would be to actually move your motor slider to get that at the right tension. What we're looking for is a good little thump. You can hear the frequency changing a little bit there. You don't want it too tight. You want it to get the job done without being too tight. And that should do it. Those are the main points to talk about. A few other things down the road will be lubrication, and I'll show you how I do that. I take this off. This is after 50 hats or whatever. If it starts making a squeaky noise, that'd be the time to tend to it. But I take it off the table. And then I hold it this way. So with a little oiler, I have a oil bottle that has a stem on it, so you can put a couple of drops right where the steel shaft and the bronze bearing meet. You can get right in there. A couple of drops of oil, and then turn this with this belt off. Make sure this is off. Then you can turn this, and it'll allow that oil to get down in there and lubricate it. You can do the same thing on all the other points. Even 3-in-1 sewing machine oil will work. Just a couple of drops on the side. Same thing, you'd be putting a couple drops right in there. And giving it a few turns, allowing that gravity to take the oil in. And that should give you good lubrication for the next few hundred hats. Next thing to talk about is the small Addi adapter. If you have a hole in your table and you purchased one of these, I'll show you quickly how that works. So here's your small Addi, and we're putting this on the back legs. It's a nice press fit. And again, this belt is off, so that's safe to actually dock this. I don't have it clamped, but I can just show you. This one's down, this one's up. You're ready to dock this into place. And you can see that for our hole, there's still support here. The back legs are fully supported by this little adapter. That's pretty well takes care of that. Any other things you can think of, Diddy?
That does not come with the Addi adapter. That's an add-on purchase.
Yeah, you want to talk about pricing. It should be in the pricing we're quoting. If it isn't, we'll make sure it's there so that you can see. If you have a small Addi and you have a hole in the table, that's the way to go, because then you can still make use of the small Addi and this hole. This has been designed so you have full clearance for the yarn coming through the hole. Quick thing to talk about is the table itself has to be very flat. You can't have a warped table, because the distance that this shaft is from the table to the center of your Addi crank is a measured amount. It's the same for everybody's machine. And so this has been built into the machine. We can't have this jacked up on foam or that jacked up on foam. If you wanted to, and if you had consistent foam, you could do both. But you'd have to do all your machines, all 4 legs. Yeah, I don't recommend it. It's just more complexity. We found it to be quiet enough without really having to do that. But it's very important to have a flat table so that these alignments are critical. This has to be exactly centered with the center of this hand crank so that you aren't stressing that axle out. With the drill set up, people with a hand drill, your hand can't really hold that firmly enough, and that's usually where you're getting a damage from. Is these are a little bit fragile to begin with. These have never been done by hand. These always have been used with either hand cranking, not with a drill, either hand cranking or this unit here. That's the only way we've powered our units and have very trouble-free use out of them. So anyway, those are the main considerations. If there's any questions at all, you can email us, and we'll give you a phone number in case there's some emergency you want to deal with. But for the most part, you'll have many happy hours of use if you follow these tips.
Would you like to see the genius behind this? There's Larry. He's the genius.
Genius? No, but I'm having fun.
He developed this for me because I was having shoulder issues, and it would take me all day to do one hat to come back to it. And so, quite a guy.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride, and we've made a few of them, and hopefully can continue to make a few more now that I'm retired.
Please give us a good review on the original video that you saw to be interested in this. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.